Hello everyone, Happy New Year. Hopefully everyone has had a great holiday period. I certainly did, and I'm so happy to be back. This time I'm going to talk to you about the design sprint process for 2020. So guys, for this first video of the year, I thought I'll give you a brief explanation about the design sprint process in general, but this time an updated version of it because I'm pretty sure I've done this in the past before. But this is just learning through experience, learning through the different types of sprints that we've done so far, and learning or looking at the type of design sprints that are available out there. Now, if you're familiar with the process, you might have done a little bit of research in the past as well, and you would have realized that there are different versions of it. There's one that's called, oh, my team's really happy in the background, which is great. The process has been divided into different types of versions of it. So you would find like there's the original Google Ventures Design Sprint by Jake Knapp. There's the AJ and Smart version of it, which is Design Sprint 2.0. There's the Design Sprint Academy version of it, Design Sprint 3.0. There's the 4-day version, 3-day version, a 5-day version. Now you might be wondering which is the right one for you. So in this video, I wanted to explain what my take is on it. Having run a number of design sprints, I feel like in general there's a rule of thumb on deciding what's the right one for you. So the original design sprint itself is actually way before the Google Ventures Design Sprint book by Jake Knapp. So I've learned this from Felix Wang, who is a Google design team, who is part of the Google design team, and I happened to meet him here in Melbourne during a design sprint event, and he explained how in Google themselves they had different versions of sprints or design sprints, and different teams run it differently, and they had their own versions depending on what products or challenges they're facing. So the ones that we happen to know and the ones that gets commercialized over time is the Google Ventures version of it, because there was a book by Jake Knapp called The Sprint Book. Now, after that, there are progressions, and the community is so great that they've developed their own versions based on their experience. So, for example, the Design Sprint 2.0, the Design Sprint 3.0, and I'm pretty sure different agencies does it differently. Our friends at ExoDigital calls it Innovation Sprint, but essentially it is actually the Design Sprint, the same thing. So my take on it is, in terms of understanding what's right for you, from our own experience, you start with the most basic one, or the original version of it, which is the Google Ventures Design Sprint. And because the book is available to public, the sprint kit is available to public, it's actually very easy for you to try and understand it, and it's a lot systematic as well, and it's well documented that it's probably best for you to run with that version. Now, the Google Ventures Design Sprint book talks about the 5-day design sprint. So on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. The way we've done it is exactly that, and then we've learned from it, and then we've learned how to hack things, and we've learned about a better process of running certain activities, learning from the other versions, whether it's the 2.0, the 3.0, the 3-day version, or whatever it is, right? So basically, if you're only starting, start with the one that gives you a lot more time. Let's just say the 5-day version. Don't run with a 3-day version or a 4-day version if you're only starting. The 5-day version essentially gives you more time, because on the Design Sprint 2.0, where it talks about the 4-day version of it, essentially day 1 and 2 of Design Sprint version 1 is compressed into 1 day, which is the Monday or day number 1. And I think for those of you who are quite new to the process, who are not familiar with the activities and don't know how to work around specific activities or agenda, I think it will be quite challenging because it'll give you more pressure because of time. So the 5-day version is a great one for you to start. Now, once you're familiar with the 5-day version and you have somewhat become a master of it, well, you don't have to be a master of it, but get familiar with it. You know how it feels, you know how to run it as a facilitator, you know how to adapt your team within that period of time. Then you can try the 4-day version, where essentially day 1 and 2 of the 5-day version is combined into one. It's compressed into one. Does it feel intense? Yes, it does. Depending on the challenge. If you're dealing with a very specific challenge, let's say it's just one key feature that you wanted to test, then by all means go ahead with the 4-day version. And during iteration sprints even, we run a 3-day version of it where you don't need to go through certain sets of activities that was done in sprint number 1. You would have just done an iteration sprint. So it's more focused on coming up with new solutions, coming up with an updated prototype and then testing it. It's less about understanding the problem anymore, but it's more about coming up with ideas, solutions, and prototyping and testing it. Therefore, a 3-day version is valid for that purpose. Now, from my own experience, I've done many 5-day versions of design sprints before we started being comfortable with offering a 4-day version or a 3-day version or even daily versions of it. Is there a right or wrong thing? As far as I'm concerned, no, not really. And it's what our friends at Google are saying as well. There's no right or wrong version of it. In Google themselves, they have developed a different version of design sprints using the double diamond method, which I won't go through into too much details, but really they're defining it based on phases of framework. So it might be a 6-phase framework, it might be a 4-phase framework, it might be a program across number of months, depending on what the challenge is. And here at Relab, usually what we do is we talk to our customers or the people that we are about to collaborate with, and if design sprint is the right solution for them, then we would design an agenda or design a program specific to their challenge, because everyone's actually quite unique, that the 5-day version, the 4-day version, they don't really fit in all of them. I mean, yes, you can come up with solutions for very specific problems, but then there are times where you have to come up with a program rather than just the one sprint. So here at Relab, for example, we'd come up with a pre-flight program, which takes about a week to do. Then you run sprint number 1. Then you may run sprint number 2, which is, say, a 3-day version instead of a 5-day version. So it varies. But hopefully this quick explanation gives you a little bit of an idea of what the differences are and where to start. Okay? So hopefully that's been helpful. Once again, Happy New Year and have a great 2020.